When you think about the most influential figures of the 20th century, a few names just tower over everyone else, and Mao Zedong is right at the top of that list. But here's the thing. Was he the revolutionary hero who built modern China? Or was he a tyrant whose policies killed millions upon millions of people? The honest answer? It's incredibly complicated.
And that quote right there, that's not an exaggeration. I mean, just try to wrap your head around that for a second. We're not just talking about changing a country's politics. We're talking about fundamentally altering the lives, the culture, and the future of hundreds of millions of people. The scale is just staggering.
So, was he a visionary who liberated a nation, or was he a monster responsible for almost unimaginable suffering? That's the question, right? In this explainer, we're going to try to peel back the layers of myth and propaganda and just look at the facts of his incredible and brutal story.
All right, so to really get a handle on the man, you have to go right back to the beginning. Mao wasn't born into some political dynasty. He came from the countryside, and that experience would shape absolutely everything he did later in life.
Mao's early years really were a mirror of the chaos shaking China itself. He was born to a pretty well-off peasant family, but then, as a teenager, he literally watches a 2,000-year-old dynasty crumble. A few years later, he gets swept up in this huge nationalist student movement, and by 1921, boom, he's there on day one, a founding member of the Chinese Communist Party. You can see how each step just pushed him further and further down this revolutionary road. And this, right here, is maybe the most important thing to understand about Mao's thinking. See, traditional Marxist theory said the revolution would come from factory workers in the cities. But Mao looked around China and said, nope, you've got it all wrong. He believed the real power, the true engine of revolution, was in the countryside with the massive peasant population. That one idea changed everything.
So you fast forward to the 1930s, and things are looking really, really bad for Mao and his communists. They're on the absolute brink of being wiped out. The rival nationalist party, the KMT, had them completely surrounded. It was a desperate time, and it forced them to make a decision that would become the stuff of legend.
They launched what we now call the Long March. But listen, calling it a march doesn't even begin to cover it. This was a brutal, year-long, 9,000-kilometer fighting retreat. They crossed snow-capped mountains, raging rivers, treacherous swamps, all while being hunted. The human cost was unbelievable. Out of about 86,000 people who started, only a small fraction made it to the end.
And here's the crazy part. Militarily, the Long March was a catastrophe. They lost almost everybody. But politically, it was a stroke of genius. It became this powerful founding myth, a story of incredible sacrifice and resilience that proved their commitment. And out of that fire, one man emerged as the absolute, unquestioned leader, Mao Zedong.
Okay, so Mao survives, he's solidified his power, and now he's no longer just some rebel leader hiding in the mountains. He's ready for the main event, conquering all of China and building it in his own image.
And this is the moment. October 1st, 1949. After years of brutal civil war, Mao stands on the gate of heavenly peace in Tiananmen Square and declares the founding of the People's Republic of China. It's truly one of the most pivotal moments of the entire 20th century. A new Red China was born.
In those first few years, you can really see why so many people were hopeful. The new government moved fast. Land was taken from powerful landlords and given to the peasants who worked it. New laws were passed that gave women rights they'd never had before. And huge campaigns were launched to teach people to read and to bring basic healthcare to the masses. For millions, it felt like a new dawn.
But that period of progress and stability, well, it wasn't going to last. Mao wasn't content to just govern. He was a permanent revolutionary, and he was about to launch a series of radical social experiments that would plunge the country into darkness.
First up was the Great Leap Forward, and the name tells you everything you need to know about the ambition here. The goal was to rocket China's economy past the West's in just a few years. The plan involved forcing all peasants onto giant collective farms and, crazily enough, trying to make steel in tiny homemade furnaces in every village. It was a vision completely disconnected from reality.
So, what was the human cost for this grand, utopian experiment? Somewhere between 20 and 40 million people.
Yeah, that's the estimated number of people who starved to death in the famine that this policy directly caused. And let's be absolutely clear, this was not a drought or a natural disaster. This was a man-made catastrophe born from bad ideas and brutal enforcement. It remains one of the worst famines in all of human history.
Now, you'd think after a disaster of that magnitude, Mao might have been finished. He was definitely weakened politically. But instead of fading away, he launched another, even more chaotic campaign to claw back his absolute power and destroy his enemies.
He called it the Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution. Essentially, Mao feared the revolutionary fire was dying out, that China was becoming too bureaucratic. So he did something unprecedented. He called on the nation's youth, his Red Guards, to rise up and attack anything traditional or bourgeois. It was a war on his own country's culture, history, and his political rivals.
The result was a solid decade of pure, violent chaos. Teachers were beaten by their students, party officials were publicly humiliated and tortured, ancient temples and priceless artifacts were smashed to pieces, the entire education system shut down. It was a national trauma that tore families and the very fabric of society apart.
So Mao finally dies in 1976, and he leaves behind this gigantic, bloody, and deeply contradictory legacy. How in the world do you even begin to weigh the good against the bad for a figure like this?
At its heart, his ideology, Maoism, really boiled down to a few key ideas. We've talked about the peasantry being the engine, but there's also the strategy of long, drawn-out guerrilla warfare, the belief that you need constant revolution to keep the system pure, and this idea of the mass line, that leaders have to listen to the people. These ideas didn't just stay in China, they inspired revolutionary groups all over the world.
And this really gets to the heart of the whole debate. It's like a balance sheet from two different planets. On the one hand, his supporters will tell you he took a broken, humiliated country, unified it, kicked out foreign powers, and made China a world power to be reckoned with, all while improving health and literacy. But then you look at the other side, the brutal dictatorship, the tens of millions dead in the famine, the cultural wasteland of the Cultural Revolution, the total lack of basic human rights. Both of these things are true.
So how does China itself handle this legacy today? Well, the Chinese Communist Party has an official line, a carefully crafted phrase they use. Mao was 70% correct, 30% wrong. It's their way of saying, yes, there were mistakes, without ever questioning the legitimacy of the man who founded their entire system.
And that leaves us with the final, impossible question. How do we judge a man who is both a unifier and a destroyer, a liberator for some, and an absolute monster for others? To really understand modern China, and frankly, a huge part of the 20th century, you have to wrestle with the deeply uncomfortable fact that Mao Zedong was, somehow, both of these things at the exact same time.